On today's show, Darrell and I are going to take a deeper dive into the mastery piece of the strategic advantage baseball process. Hey guys, welcome back to Strategic Baseball Podcast. Today, Darrell and I are going to break down the mastery piece of the strategic advantage baseball process. Geoff and Darrell here, and we help baseball players get to the next level with a strategic advantage so that they can play with supreme confidence against the best players at any level. In every episode, we promise to deliver value on the strategic side of player development to help your players compete with players just as good, if not better than them. Darrell, the pitching strategist, I am a hitting strategist, and this is Strategic Baseball Podcast. If you are interested in joining our circle, head over to strategic-baseball.com, where you can find the show notes, and submit your email and always get a reminder each time we release a new episode, weekly tip from Darrell and I, a PDF transcription and visual of the previous episode, and much more. If you are a player, parent, or coach who is interested in learning more about how the strategic advantage baseball process works for your unique situation, please email me at jeff@athletic-mission.com or Darrell at dc@startpitching.com. You can find that in the show notes. We would love to arrange a time to talk with you and see how we can help. So Darrell, man, I'm going to let you kick this off, man. We're talking about the mastery piece of the strategic advantage baseball process.
Yeah, man, I think it is interesting because you have to grasp the how they intertwine with each other. And I think last week or the last show when we really broke down how competitive advantage, how your physical skills, and how we continue to develop that it's something that is an ongoing process. And so when we start talking about mastery or practicing until mastery, now it's more focused on how do we take that physical capability where you're currently at, and then how do we specifically practice, what we need to do to go play in a real baseball game. And I think that's the bridge kind of that we talk about all the time, is that physical capability is something that we work on with strength conditioning. It's our practice habits. It's the fundamental stuff. It's our mechanics as pitchers. It's all the things. And it's important. I'm not trying to discount that. I don't want anybody to walk away and say, oh, the mechanics don't matter. How each person understands the way their body moves is important. The brain is controlling the body. So we need that pitcher, that player, that hitter to understand how his body moves. But we also, if we want to become baseball players, we got to start focusing on what is going to give us the ability to master my swing, master seeing the ball, master my mechanics, to now I can, as a pitcher, I can take that to literally get my grip, wrist, and forearm angle and the rhythm, tempo, and timing of how I move off the rubber and create pitches with it. So now we got to literally take our physical skill set and we got to turn it into a mastered skill set. And the cool thing that I like about what we do here is that you and I do it on a one year basis, and we do it month to month. And so we break it down into preseason, in season, and then off season. And again, it's more than just a plan. It's really about the player having the idea of, okay, this season right here, I'm just focused on my physical skill set. I'm just focused on getting better, bigger, faster, stronger. And we're still using some of this training to work on my mechanics, to work on what is gonna be a result that's gonna show up when I start practicing or when I really dig deeper into my preseason throwing program as a pitcher. But we transfer that physical capability into the mound drills and the stuff that we do to help us really understand, how do we master a skill? How do we master my fastball? How do I move my fastball by velocity and movement to a specific location? And that's what we're talking about, baseball specific mastery. And when we're practicing until mastery, it means that I understand the grip, wrist, and forearm angle of a pitch. I understand the spin that's going to come off of my fingers if I throw the ball a certain way, if I release it a certain way. And then the way we practice that is what gives us the ability to develop a mastered pitch. And I think it's really that simple, Geoff, when we start talking about, I think we try to make it more complicated because pitching is hard. And to command a pitch is hard. And to really learn the difference between all the different types of fastballs that you could throw and all the different breaking pitches you could throw and all the different changeups you could throw and all the other, kind of unique pitches that you can really throw. But when we kind of dissect that a little bit and really look at, is it a physical capability issue, or is it really now me understanding what I specifically need to do with that baseball as a pitcher to create the pitch that I want to throw that kind of matches my arm style? And the way we talk about it with pitchers, I talk about pitch matching. Are you throwing pitches that match your arm slot? So a grip is a grip, man. And there's a different grip. Every player in the world has got a different grip. I call it, it's like DNA, man. Everybody's got a different DNA. Everybody's got a little bit different pitch grip. They got different size hands, different size forearm strength, wrist strength, all the different components that could really go into how they grip the baseball and get the spin or get the movement that they get off of their pitches. And so we have to, when we're moving into mastery, we got to take them from the capability piece. Okay, can I throw this pitch? Into, okay, now how do I intentionally throw this pitch? Into what we're probably going to talk about the next show. How do we look at taking our mastered pitches, the pitches that we trust, the pitches that we could throw on purpose, and turning that into a strategy versus a specific hitter or a specific opponent? And I think when we talk about mastery, that's all it really is. It's really a super intentional, focused practice on what you can specifically do. And it can't just be random. And I think this is why you and I wanted to have these conversations, because there's a difference between training for your competitive advantage, your measurables, the things that's going to give you a physical capability, and versus, okay, how do I take that physical capability and turn it into a baseball specific mastered skill? And that's all pitches really is. It's really about the intentionality of taking my mechanics and now developing a pitch out of it. And so, like we talked a little bit about the last show, we can bounce back and forth. But if the reason that pitch ain't working is not really a mechanics issue, it's more of a grip and wrist and forearm angle issue, then you can go change your mechanics and arm slot all you want. At the end of the day, it's just gonna make that pitch worse. It's not the solution. And so we got to understand how we take our physical capability and really how we individually develop the pitches that we want to throw as a pitcher. And when you see it from that perspective, then it really does become personalized. It's not some generic pitching philosophy. It's not a generic fastball. It's not a generic fastball grip or a curveball grip or a slider grip or a changeup grip. It's your fastball grip that we have to master. Then we can start practicing intentional bullpens, super focused bullpens. And once we do that, then we can start building the trust that I can throw that pitch in any situation and count. And that is literally the process that we use here. We don't play a bunch of bullpen games. We don't do a bunch of unintentional stuff. Each pitcher has to understand what they want that grip, wrist, and forearm angle to do, what the intent, what kind of movement pattern they have with that pitch. And then we practice throwing that pitch within the velocity range that they currently have with a movement that they currently can command to a specific location. And that's literally how we throw bullpens. It ain't about being cute or fancy. It's about them understanding that I got to master this pitch so I can create a strategy versus one hitter, one pitch at a time, that when I show up on game day that I'm going to be able to execute. And when we break it down that simple, I think you and I are seeing here, man, that guys are digging it. And now guys are really seeing that, the way I master my pitches, the way I understand how to throw this pitch is more important than me trying to come up with some systematic way to throw the pitch or situation count I should throw this pitch in. Really, then as we'll talk about the next show, is breaking down that decision-making process and that pre-pitch process about how do I choose what is the absolute best pitch for me to throw in this situation and count. And I think you'll see that path that we created from competitive advantage to mastery to practicing until mastery. And then how do we take individual mastered skill sets and move into creating a strategy versus a specific opponent, man? So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, on the hitting side, we have the three main things when it comes to the mastery. We have swing matching. So does your swing match the type of hitter that you are? We have the stick process, which is focused on the swing. And then we have command hitting, which is focused on hitting. And so the competitive advantage, as we've explained before, is the understanding of kind of how you're moving and improving how you're moving in itself. But when it comes to the mastery side of this and what's going to give us a strategic advantage on game day, our strategy is based off of our master skills and what we have confidence in knowing that we can execute in a game with extreme pressure. So the mastery of the swing, as I said earlier, is the stick process. So that's the seeing the spin, timing, knowledge of the zone, and then finally the swing. So mastery of this process is what will allow it to show up on game day and feel good about our swing. And then we got to feel confident that we can show up and actually hit. And this is where the command hitting comes in. And what we're doing is putting guys in certain situations, a certain count. And this command hitting brings awareness to a lot of guys to what they can do and what they can't do, as far as what pitches they can hit and what pitches they can't hit in certain spots, and what creates ground balls, what creates fly balls, what creates line drives. So it's really cool to see that. And then it's also really cool because the guys, as they get better and they really start to understand their own process, that the conversations get better and the questions get better as to what their thought process is, as to why they are able to execute certain things and not execute situations and count. It all goes back to their thought, their approach, their decision-making process, which we develop in the mastery phase of practice. And now, this mastery phase of practice tends to lead to boring practice. But our guys here at Athletic Mission, man, they've learned to embrace this and actually love the type of practice. So yeah, man. So our process, our mastery process here at Athletic Mission, again, is going to be the stick process and the command hitting, which all gives me a strategic advantage and something to take with me to develop a strategy against the opponent.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's where the money's at, in that boring practice, man. And I think that's the cool piece. And I think you can testify to this on the hitting side too, that once they have the switch from competitive advantage into mastery, or practicing until mastery, once they make that shift and kind of move into that, then the measurables get better.
Yeah.
And I think this is the hardest part to try to drill in guys' head. Once they see that they got a mastered pitch, the velocity gets better, the consistency in that velocity at a higher level. And I think that's the piece that if we just focus on throwing hard, and we don't, focus on throwing hard strikes, then we miss the point. Guys can't take it from, the velocity off a mound, just throwing one fastball, to, okay, how do I do it in the game? And I think that's what we see with a lot of young players that don't grasp that. And heck, I've seen it with a lot of my pro guys, is that whenever they go from the bullpen to the game, if they don't believe that they have a mastered pitch and they don't have a strategy, they lose velocity. Because they start getting and we'll talk about that in the next piece. They start getting indecisive about what pitch they want to throw. Then the brain don't trust them. So that's just real, man. We can sit here and call it what we want. Guys try to say, oh, man, I lost 3 or 4 miles an hour on my fastball. I've seen you lose 3 or 4 miles an hour off of your rhythm, tempo, and timing, your intent. And it wasn't literally your intent that changed. It was the indecision that you had when you were standing on that rubber, looking in and getting a sign from the catcher, and you were torn. Your head wanted to do one thing and your heart didn't want to. And that little bit of indecision, that's why I break it down. That's why pitchers choke. They don't choke because they're not physically capable of doing something. They choke because in the moment, what they think they need to do or what they should do and what they think they need to do is two different things. And so that indecision starts creating negative outcomes in their mind. Like if I do this pitch, this is what's going to happen and it's not going to be good. Then they literally start questioning why they're even out there to begin with. And that's when guys start peeking in the dugout, looking for the coach, looking for help, and it gets ugly. And that's the reality of it. And that's not understanding how our physical skill set leads into me practicing mastery, baseball mastered skills and pitches specifically for pitchers into a strategy. So once I've had guys that understand that strategy is the key to not choking, then all of a sudden this part of the game became a lot more sexy, a lot more fun to do. And you and I have seen that here over the last 2 months when we really took this group and broke it down to them. Now, all of a sudden, man, that talking strategy, really paying attention to their opponent and really seeing what it takes to take what they're capable of doing and going out there and giving themselves a chance to compete against the opponent or that individual pitcher or hitter, man, is the key to their success. And, man, these guys here are loving it, man. So hopefully that's the big takeaway from today's show, that when you see the fact that my physical capability is important, but it's not more important than my individual mastered baseball skill set and the individual things that I have to do to actually go play in the game. And so we can't get this focused on our velocity or our individual skill set. We really got to get focused in how do I master something that I can create a strategy that I can go use in a real game with.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you know what? As we wrap things up, you said something about, you talked about measurable and how they get better when they focus on their process. And when they focus on, getting to the mastery of their process. So, the focus has to be on the process because we see it all the time.
Yep.
As soon as that Rapsodo comes out or as soon as that radar gun comes out, you see them get away from it. And it messes up their whole process, which in turn messes up their measurables.
Yep.
And now they're pissed, but it's crazy how many guys want to see that number just get up just that one time when we're shooting for consistency of numbers, and then the consistency of numbers that's going to show up on game day. And, your process is what's going to allow that happen. And so that's what our guys are really starting to kind of understand that, really buy into that. Now it's just them getting over the mental hurdle of what they think will produce the numbers and trust that their process will produce the numbers.
Yeah, you got to trust your mastered skill set, man. That's a great point, dude. Great.
All right, very good, man. I appreciate everybody tuning in and catching this part, the strategic advantage baseball process, which is the mastery piece. So again, if you guys are finding any value in these episodes, please leave an objective review and head over to strategic-baseball.com and join our circle. Like I always say, we got some cool stuff we're working on, and we'd love to share with you guys first. So thank you all for listening in, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.